test of Soviet technology. Share in the accolades,